I sensed something was off the instant the ringing ended. Not because the house went quiet, silence had become a regular guest, but because a strange, heavy numbness spread through my chest as I stared at the caller ID. Lena, my wife. 12 years of loving her, trusting her, building a life with her. 48 hours earlier, she had taken that life apart with one blunt confession that splintered me from the inside. But the call wasn't from her. It was the hospital. Mr. Hale, the voice said, urgent but controlled. Your wife has been admitted. You may want to come. Still, I didn't move. I didn't ask what happened. Didn't ask if she was awake, hurt, scared. I just said, all right, and ended the call. Because 2 days before, she had looked at me as I poured coffee, calm, casual, as if reciting items from a shopping list, and said she'd slept with another man. No build-up. No tears. Not even an attempt at regret. Just a truth I never wanted, but had always dreaded. My body reacted before I did. A fire in my chest, a ringing in my ears, a tightening in my throat that felt impossible to swallow past. But I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. Didn't collapse. I only breathed out one word. Why? She offered reasons, flimsy, sharp, each one slicing deeper. We were drifting. You don't look at me the same anymore. It meant nothing. Every sentence felt like being stabbed by someone who didn't know how to stop. And when she noticed I wasn't shouting or arguing, she broke down, sobbing, clinging to my shirt, begging. I stepped away. Her hands dropped like ashes. I can't do this, I said. Not right now. I slept on the couch that night, and the next. We hadn't spoken since. So when the hospital called, all I felt was exhaustion. Not fear, not urgency, just a dead, heavy fatigue. I didn't go, didn't text, didn't ask a single question. Not until the doctor phoned again an hour later. This time, worry cracked through his voice. Mr. Hale, you really should come. There's something important you need to hear. The drive felt unreal, like the world moved around me while I was stuck on pause. My mind kept replaying her confession, each memory carving a deeper wound. Inside the hospital, the sharp smell of antiseptic hit me, cold, metallic, final. A nurse lifted her head as I approached. You're here for Lena Hale? Yes, I said, barely managing the word. She led me through a hallway of humming fluorescent lights. Each step dragged. A doctor waited outside a room. Older, worn around the eyes, holding his clipboard like it weighed too much. Mr. Hale, he said gently, your wife experienced a seizure at work. She collapsed in the lobby. My stomach clenched. Is she all right?
She's stable, he said.
But the seizure was likely brought on by extreme emotional stress. Her coworkers said she'd been crying nonstop all morning, talking about how she destroyed her marriage and didn't know how to fix things. A flicker of guilt tried to surface, but the memory of her confession crushed it before it could form. The doctor studied my expression. That's not the only concern, he continued. We found something during her scans. A cold rush went through me. What did you find? He hesitated a moment too long. A lesion on her temporal lobe. It seems to have been developing for a while. It might be harmless, or it could be influencing her behavior, her impulses, her emotional stability. I stared at him. You mean something in her brain might have changed how she acted? It's possible, he said softly. We need more tests, but if she's been unlike herself lately, this may explain it. My knees nearly gave out. Because she had changed. Snapping over small things, restless, pulling away only to cling tightly the second I withdrew. Crying without understanding why. I thought it was stress. I thought it was distance. I never imagined something inside her might be warping everything. My eyes shut as something inside me cracked. Not forgiveness, not love rekindled, just a brutal, disorienting confusion. The doctor touched my arm gently. She's awake. She asked for you. When I walked into her room, my chest tightened painfully. Lena looked fragile in a way I had never seen. Tangled hair, swollen eyes, tear-stained cheeks. When she saw me, her lips trembled. You came, she whispered, Voice small, almost childlike, more like the woman I married than the stranger who hurt me. I said nothing, just stood there. She reached out, but stopped mid-motion, her hand shaking. "I'm sorry," she choked. "I'm so sorry." I felt lost and didn't understand why. Everything felt wrong. And I broke us. I ruined everything. Her voice fractured. I wanted to tell her about the lesion. I wanted to say I didn't know what any of this meant anymore. I wanted to scream, to ask if the thing in her brain made her choose another man, or if that decision came from the part of her she controlled. But I didn't say any of it. Silence settled between us, thick and suffocating. She wiped her face, breath unsteady. "Do you still love me?" The question crushed me, because the answer was yes. And that terrified me more than anything else. I sat down beside her bed, hands clasped so tight they trembled. "I don't know what happens now," I said quietly. "I don't know how to understand any of this. But I'm here." Tears streamed down her cheeks. We didn't touch. Didn't solve anything. We just breathed the same painfully fragile air, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. When I finally walked outside, night had settled. The air felt cold, sharp, almost cleansing. And for the first time since her confession, my own tears came. Not for the betrayal, but for everything tangled underneath it. Life had just become more complicated than a broken promise. This wasn't forgiveness, wasn't closure, wasn't a dramatic ending. It was the first step onto a long, uncertain road, one I didn't know if I had the strength to follow, but one I couldn't walk away from yet. Because heartbreak isn't always a slammed door. Sometimes it's a corridor you have to drag yourself through before you discover where it leads.